Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
The truth shall set you free.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
No. I am your father.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
I don't want to brag, but I will. I was in the Avengers.
The Avengers?
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. What is that?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Hello and welcome back to the Creative Control Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Kenan, and thank you for joining me on today's brand new episode 57. From the Creative Control team, my right-hand man, my wingman, Sacha, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, people?
Good,
Try not
good.
to be so negative.
Yeah, our last one, Unpopular Opinions. That was a good show. That was entertaining. So if you haven't checked that out, previous episode 56, Unpopular Opinions. We tear down the Dark Knight trilogy, Man of Steel. I go on a rant about Skyfall. Sacha, he bigged up a movie in terms of Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. We talked airplanes. So yeah, there's a few movies we went into on there. But I like Sacha's positivity. Yeah, he did. He totally blindsided me with that.
Everyone
Absolutely.
was expecting a rant, and I was like, no,
exactly.
Yeah.
A rant for next time.
I kind of figure you have Batman on the podcast. You can't have two Batman films on the podcast.
No, that's right. You got to spread it out. Yeah, exactly. So so
one.
Neil took his take on the Dark Knight. Sacha will have his he'll have his time. He'll just drop it when he's ready. I know. Okay, so talking about today's episode. So today's episode, we are going a bit retro. So this is like Creative Control retro. So what I thought was, we talk about a lot of movies kind of modern day, in the last sort of like 5, 10, 15, even 20 years. And I wanted to go back a little bit further because there's a lot of movies that people probably are not even aware of, they're not familiar with, but because of our age, we've seen, fair few movies from back in the day. And so what I want to do is I've picked 1980 because I was born in 81. Sacha probably like a year before, 80 or 79.
80. Yep.
80, yeah. So I thought, that's a really great place to start. And so what we're going to be doing is for today's episode, we're going to be doing the top 10 movies of 1980. So these are movies which were theatrically released in 1980. Now, the way that we've tried to do this is back in the 80s, movies were very much released in different territories around the world with big gaps. So it's very hard to say when a movie was particularly released depending on which country you're on. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to make it simple. I've gone with the US domestic box office release date because those figures and information is much easier to find than most other places. So we're going to go on the release date from the US theatrical calendar. So if the movie sits in within, that's the year that it's going to fall within. So for instance, one of the movies I looked at for the biggest box office performers of 1980 was Kramer versus Kramer. It was actually released in December 79. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to include that in my list. So it's literally movies which have been theatrically released within that calendar year. So it's going to be our top 10 of 1980. Future episodes, we'll do 81, 82, and so forth. And it'll just give us an opportunity to talk about lots of movies that might not get the limelight because we see a lot of like top 10 80s movies or top 20 80s movies, but they're all going to be pretty much the same. So this way, it just gives us a chance to delve into things a little bit deeper. But thank you very much for listening today. Thank you for being here. If you're not already a subscriber, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Creative Control Movie Podcast. And if not, make sure you're listening onto our podcast platforms, which are available on Spotify, which also does the video version now as well, which is fantastic. And you've got obviously Apple Podcasts and Audible, Amazon Music, all your standard podcast platforms. Make sure you follow and subscribe to us on those. So let's get back to today's episode, top 10 movies of 1980. What we're going to do is we're going to do our traditional thing where we submit a movie to make it our top 10. And as it's just Sacha and I today, we are literally going to be doing a movie each to create our top 10. But then I'm going to go back to our lists because obviously you are familiar with other members of our Creative Control team. We have Alex, Amrita, Lee J, Lee D, Neil, and I'm going to go through some of their lists and movies that they've submitted and see if we think any of the movies they've suggested should be in our top 10. But today, Sacha and I have the final say. So, Sasha, I'm going to put it over to you. What is the first movie that you'd like to enter into our top 10 movie of 1980?
How are we doing this? Are we doing this ascending order or descending order?
So, I would say probably ascending because you want to make sure your film gets in there because I'm going to pick my
so
ones that
number
I want to
one,
be
yeah?
in the list. So, pretty much you're going to submit 5 and I'm going to submit 5. So,
Oh, right. I see. So it's like, okay, an algorithm. Okay.
yeah.
So for me, number one is, come on, man. It's The Empire Strikes Back. Okay.
is.
It is the
It
best
is.
Star Wars movie. Now, I know you youngers out there, all about Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. Let me tell you about Revenge of the Sith. Like, it's a good movie, but it's a good movie over time. You got to understand, old farts like me, we like how people imagine how the sequels should be or whatnot. Old school Star Wars fans imagine what the prequels should be. And like, even though like Revenge of the Sith was the best out of the three, that was like, what I mean? We had a different, but we thought he'd turn to the dark side in number 2 or whatever,
Mhm, yeah.
So it's like expectation. And for a long time, I was like, well, it was as good as it could be, you know what I mean?
Mhm,
Without
mhm.
looking at the movie that it actually was, and that's a whole podcast for another time. And it's a good movie.
Definitely.
It's a good movie. I'd say it's a very good movie, but Empire will always be the one. Luke, I am your father. Sorry if that's a spoiler to you guys. You've been living under a rock, so
Yeah.
whatever. That was the biggest plot twist forever, because Empire Strikes Back could have been like another Saturday morning cartoon matinee kind of film, like what A New Hope was. Because when you look at A New Hope, it's very much kind of like, the heroes win and Darth Vader's
very
head
easy and
spins off.
straightforward.
Yeah, it's like a Saturday morning cartoon almost. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's that's how it was. It was like a fairy tale in space. But Empire shit got real in that film. Okay, Luke Skywalker did not win the day. Okay, man gets his arm chopped off, finds out his daddy's the bad guy.
It's kind of like for modern day audiences, you know how you felt when you came out of the cinema after Infinity War.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was that.
Yeah,
it was the first.
It's that because it's like it's a downer. The bad guy looks like he's kind of one who's got the advantage. There's nothing really to celebrate. You're like, oh damn, So that's how it was for us back there with Star Wars. It's like, okay, the good guys didn't win. They kind of come together at the end and collected, but it's like, oh, what's next? And it really left you on that cliffhanger.
Yeah, totally. And then like, I'm really, let's skip over Star Wars because I'm sure that we'll do many podcasts on Star Wars because it's very easy to get lost in a deep dive into Empire Strikes Back. But come on, like that was the biggest movie of that year, hands down, without a shadow of a doubt. It is still the gold standard of Star Wars films. And Darth Vader, just don't get a promotion from that guy. He'll choke you out. Like, hands down, he'll choke you out. How many admirals does he go through in that movie? Guy chokes out a school teacher. If you watch Grain Chill, seriously, that Grain Chill guy that was the headmaster, choke out by Vader right at the start.
Yeah, so, I totally agree. That was my number one pick as well. That is my top film of 1980 for sure. Absolutely, and I would say it's my favorite Star Wars movie as well. So my pick for this top 10 for me it's probably my second favorite film of that year. It's a film that's kind of stayed with me. We mentioned it on the last podcast. Is Airplane. That film is comedy gold. The range of humor in it is so on point. And yes, some of it is very obvious. Some of it is slapstick, but some of it is also very clever. Play on words, innuendos, just miscommunication, understandings. But there's very rarely 5 seconds goes by that you can't see a joke either in the forefront or the background, or is building up to one. It's just the tempo of that comedy is just fantastic. It's a great cast, has so many memorable lines. There's just so much going on in the background, and I absolutely adore that film. Any thoughts on Airplane?
Oh yeah, it's in my list.
It deserves to be there, right?
It was further down, but love Airplane, man. That was like the Zucker brothers. Was that their debut comedy or was it Top Secret? I don't know which came first, but that movie, you know what? That movie was more or less the birth of that genre that went
Yeah.
on throughout the 80s and the 90s. You had stuff like the Naked Gun trilogy, Top Secret, obviously, then later on in scary movies.
Yeah, it's all the
It's
parodies. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, I mean, like it inspired Scary Movie, which inspired a new generation
Mhm.
in the early 2000 kind of thing. The Wayans
Mhm.
brothers obviously took inspiration. What was really weird was that the later Scary Movies, they hired the airplane people to take
That's
over
right.
That's why Leslie Nielsen starts appearing in those
Starts
later
popping up.
Scary Movies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and Charlie Sheen, I think, shows up. So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, Airplane was the original. I mean, it really did show what Leslie Nielsen could do with comedy, because
Mhm.
before he was like a serious actor.
That's right.
Beforehand, he was not known for his comedy, but he
And
always
he
had a
delivers it
comedic
as a
side.
serious actor.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
that's what was great about it. Unlike Naked Gun, where he's a little bit serious, but he's so much more comical in the facial expressions, and
Yeah,
but this everything was the deadpan. He was like a doctor, and he's like, no, I'm serious about this.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Sasha, what is your second pick?
The Blues Brothers.
The Blues Brothers.
The Blues Brothers. Like, come on, man. Like, that's a classic, hands down. That's probably what, like, on my list. That and Empire Strikes Back are probably my most watched films from this era. Like,
Right.
I'm
Okay.
not really known for being a musical guy, but I know every lyric in this film, kind of thing. It's great. As one of the greatest car chases ever, even though it gets a bit Looney Tunes. It's a good laugh. It's fun for all.
He was big around
Like,
our friends group in college as well. I know,
yeah, totally.
they were all about it. But okay, so here's a fun fact: I've never watched it.
You have never seen the Blues Brothers?
No, I haven't.
Get
I
the
don't
fuck
know
out,
why.
man. Oh my god!
I know, right? When I was
Oh
doing
my
this list on
gosh.
the Blues Brothers, I was like, I know of it, obviously, and I know set pieces of it, and I know the car chase, and I know the songs because our friends used to sing it, and they used to do some of these in karaoke and stuff like that. But it's just a film I never sat down and watched, and I was just like,
Mate,
how have I not
mate.
watched this movie?
Yeah,
So,
how have you not watched that movie? You need
I
to.
know.
Maybe not the second one, but definitely the OG one with
Mhm.
John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. That
Yeah.
film is legendary. And what's great is they get a whole load of jazz musicians from the times, kind of thing.
Mhm.
There's so many cameos. Frank Oz shows up as a police officer right at the start, and like you can tell, you know it's him straight away, kind of thing, if you know who
Yeah.
Frank Oz is. And Carrie Fisher's in there as well. She
Mhm.
plays like John Belushi's ex-girlfriend out to kill him, so she's running around with a shotgun. Fantastic movie, man. Go watch it, man. Why are you
Yeah.
running a
No,
movie
I will do.
podcast? Ain't seen the Blues Brothers.
I know, it's embarrassing. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go for my second pick, and my second pick is going to be Raging Bull. I love this movie. Directed by Martin Scorsese, stars Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. We know what that relationship between De Niro and Scorsese is, and it's just got some fantastic scenes. The black and white of it is just incredible to watch with the lighting. It's got one of the best one shots in movie history, where it follows him from the back of the changing rooms into the ring for the fight. Just an incredible long one shot, and just amazing performances throughout. Gritty, great boxing, tension, drama. Kind of has it all for me. So Raging Bull's in there for me. Fan of Raging Bull, Sasha, I'm sure.
I like Raging Bull. I mean, it was one of the first films I looked at in film studies, like as a teen,
Yeah.
and I do own it. It's not in my top 10 because, like, I don't even think it's in my top. Is it in my top 10 Scorsese movies? I think it is, but I haven't really thought about that too much. But it's
not
not
one you
one
often
I
go back and rewatch. I have to say.
it's very well made. It's definitely a better made movie than most of the movies on my list. But in terms of like me going back to it, it's not been one that I've probably seen it about 3 times ever. And I do love Scorsese, but I don't. It's not in my top 10. I think I put stuff that I've seen over and over again, with the exception of one movie. if that makes sense. So
Yeah. No, I've often done that with my rankings. It's like I know there's probably better made movies out there, might be some more popular movies,
100%.
but for me, the enjoyment of a movie, and that's what makes cinema movies so diverse and popular, is what it means to you. And it's about how
Yeah.
what draws you in and what draws you back to watch that over and over again. So yeah, no, totally feel that. So what is your third pick then, Sasha?
Neil will hate me, but it's
Oh,
The Shining.
Shining.
Is The Shining. If you want a well-made film,
Mhm.
forget about it being an adaptation of the book, okay? Because
Yeah.
if you're a fan of the book, I totally understand. But I ain't read the book, okay? I went in
Mhm.
strictly as a film goer, and that shit
Yeah.
blew me away. And you know what? I only seen this film in the past like 5, maybe 7 years, kind of
Mhm.
thing. So because it was like one of those films that I always wanted to see. I knew it was a Kubrick film, but I wanted to see it in cinema. And because we live in an age where
Right.
stuff is re-released a lot, I
Mhm.
knew that they would do a re-release of The Shining, and lo and behold, they did one day. And I went,
Mhm.
I was working in the cinema at the time, and I straight up watched it. And you know what? I'm glad I watched it in cinema and not
Mm.
at home on my television, because that thing,
It's a different
that film,
experience.
yeah, it lends itself to the screen. And you know what? That shit was chilling. Jack Nicholson is fantastic. I forget the girl who's in it, the woman that's in it that plays his wife. She was fantastic. Like I actually believe she was afraid. And looking into the making of the way she was treated, I can kind of see what why
Shelley
really.
Duvall. Yeah.
Shelley
No, there's a
Duvall,
lot
yeah.
of stuff about the
Yeah.
making of and apparently her relationship with Kubrick and, how he used to frighten her, scare her, bully her and all that kind of stuff. There's a
Yeah.
lot of information about there. So I'm not going to comment too much about it. Go discover it for yourself. But yeah, you can definitely, there's definitely a lot to read
Yeah.
about there on there.
But that film is so crazy, man. It's really good, really good. And
Yeah,
if you haven't
I
seen
totally
it,
agree. It's definitely in my
check
top
out
10
the
as well.
sequel as well. The sequel to it that came out as well, Doctor Sleep. That was a really good film
Yeah,
as
with
well.
Hugh McGregor. I thought that was really good. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Because
really good sequel.
yeah, because I saw The Shining the movie first, and then I went back and watched the book, and then I kind of did the same. So I normally read a lot of Stephen King books. He's one of my go-to authors. I tend to most holidays when I go abroad, I'll listen to an audio book of Stephen King or read one, and a Doctor Sleep is one I didn't do. And then obviously the movie came out, and I watched the movie first, and then went back and read the book, and I thought it was a really great adaptation as well. But even Doctor Sleep as a movie, it really lent itself into the first movie. And Stephen King, we know that he's not been a fan of the movie. He prefers the TV movie that they did in terms of the adaptation. But even he says how good Doctor Sleep is and how it even improves the viewing experience of the first one because of the way it connects and ties in. So yeah, definitely would recommend watching Doctor Sleep if you haven't. I think there's an extended version, which I haven't seen yet. There's a director's cut with like an extra 20 minutes or something in it. So I definitely want to be able to check that out. Okay, so far we have 5 movies. Well, we've got Empire Strikes Back, we've got Airplane, Raging Bull, The Shining, and The Blues Brothers. Right, so it's going to be my pick now. Let's have a look. What am I going to go for? I'm actually going to go for The Long Good Friday. This is a great British movie starring Bob Hoskins and Helen Mirren. It's also got Pierce Brosnan in it. It's a British gangster film. So, it might be one that you're not familiar with. So I'll give you a little bit of the premise of the movie. So you've got Harold, who's played by Bob Hoskins. He's an English gangster. And he's about to lose a lucrative new deal when a bomb starts showing up in every inconvenient place. A mysterious syndicate is trying to muscle in on his action, and Harold wants to know who they are. He finds out soon enough, and mayhem ensues. So I'm not going to give any spoilers on that. But incredible performances in that movie, gritty, and it really showed what Bob Hoskins could do as an actor, for real. And I think it's like number 21 in the top 100 British movies ever made and stuff like that in various lists and stuff like that. So yeah, great movie for me, and definitely one you should check out. Sasha, have you seen it?
No, I've never seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Never ever seen. It's always been a film that's always popped up there where I've seen it, like in lists and stuff and in magazines and stuff. I've never really seen it ever. So yeah,
maybe definitely want to check out. Hey, this is what the podcast's about. I'll go watch Blues Brothers, and you can watch The Long Good Friday. Okay, Sasha, what is your next pick?
Jackie Chan's The Big Brawl. It's one of his
Jackie
first
Chan's
movies. Yeah, this was one of his first like Western kind of movies. Like, you know, around the time when he was doing this is like pre-Police Story when real Jackie Chan started doing stuff. So this is kind of like what's it, the Snake one and the Drunken Master kind of stuff. This is around that kind of era, but this one was like put out to the West as like kind of like a pre-Rush Hour kind of movie.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of capitalizing on Enter the Dragon's kind of success because it's by the makers of Enter the Dragon. But yeah, The Big Brawl, you want some Jackie Chan pre-Police Story kind of stuff before he like really was the household name, check it out. It's got that classic Jackie humor. And what I love about recent dubbings of it, they've got him dub his own voice in English, but they've got like but they've got everyone else speaking like English, you know, dubbed and stuff. And I think it adds to the humor. I just think all these old movies of that time are better dubbed than original language kind of thing, because it has a charm to it and a certain sense of humor, because the voice-over actors are clearly adding their own narrative to the story as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that goes for the other movies that I will mention. But The Big Brawl, definitely check it out if you want watch some nice martial arts cinema and early Jackie.
That's a great shout, man. I appreciate that, because you know that's what we want to do with this podcast as well, is just introduce people to stuff they might not know or heard of. So you know Jackie Chan, and most people will know him now, and especially modern day audiences from Rush Hour and sort of like Shanghai Noon and that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's so much more to him from his original movies. Definitely go check that out. I haven't seen it, so I'm gonna add that to
What
my
was your
list as
first
well.
Jackie Chan film you ever saw?
I think it might have been Police Story 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that might have been the first one I watched. Because in my circle of friends, I didn't have many people who were into sort of like Asian cinema.
Right. Okay.
But obviously you had Dylan and Imran and stuff like that who were into that, and you probably watched a lot of stuff with them. I didn't discover it until much later, so I think it was probably something that maybe I caught on TV or was VHS at someone's house. It wasn't one that I picked up and said, "Oh, look, I'm going to go watch this." Hey, it might even have been at your house. Who knows? I can't even remember where I saw it, but I think that was the first one that I saw. And then there's actually a lot of Jackie Chan I haven't watched, and you've mentioned a lot of times about stuff that I should definitely check out. And so probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to you and like, right, give me a list. This is what I need to go see, and then I'll work my way through it, because I think that's
I'll
the
give you the
best way.
list. Trust me. Don't worry, man.
Give me the list. All right.
But
We're
what
going
was it
to end up doing a
Yeah.
top 10 Jackie Chan films, I'm sure. So that'll
Yeah,
educate people.
yeah, with Jackie, I got introduced to Jackie through D-Lan, to be quite honest. And around the time because D-Lan and Imran used to make kung fu, like they
Home movies,
look at
right?
Jackie Chan
Yeah.
films and try and imitate them in Dee's Back Garden, and basically we do these short films. And I befriended D-Lan when I was 14, and then he had me as a guest villain.
Right. Okay.
You know,
I've seen the home movies. You showed me the home movies.
yeah.
Brilliant.
So, like, you know, if you want to see a bunch of teenagers beating the shit out of each other, this is before TikTok. We were doing it well before TikTok. Just, trying to make films and stuff. But what was real funny is that was my introduction to Jackie Chan, because Dee and Imran were huge Jackie Chan fans, because they used to rent the videos out at the video store. And funnily enough, around a similar time, they started showing on late night Channel 4 Jackie Chan films every Friday. I think it was every Friday
that's
night.
where I saw it, actually.
And
yeah.
So, and it was like a regular staple. So people, our generation, would be watching it every Friday night and then talking about it at school. Because, you know, I'd talk to my friend Jed Dugdale, also known as Simji, if you've heard his music and stuff. But I'd talk to Simji and I'd be like, no, sorry, some guy, I always read it as Simji, and it's actually some guy. And I was like, yeah, I know Simji. And a friend of mine's like, no, what, you mean some guy? I'm like, oh yeah, that's what that means. Anyway, if you know some guy, yeah,
brilliant.
I know. But he was like, yeah, back when we were kids, we just talked Jackie Chan and stuff and Police Story, Wheels and Wheels, all of this stuff, and yeah, that was it. And then that's one of the things where me and Richard, whenever a kung fu movie would come out, I'd call Richard because Richard's into martial arts movie. Richard Edwards is a very good friend of mine, and Kenan, he's listening to this podcast, and he has very questionable taste in films.
Don't open that Pandora box.
He's now
so yeah, I think that's probably where I watched it, because Channel 4 used to do, obviously you had the back-to-back, you used to have Friends and then Frasier in the evening on Channel 4, and then, like you say, late night movies. That's probably where I caught a couple of his films for the first time. So yeah, I'm going to pick this movie because it's not necessarily particularly well made, but it is a movie I watched around that time. It is a movie I enjoy watching with my friends. It's got a killer soundtrack. It's cheesy as hell, but Flash Gordon. It's all kinds of fun. It's great comic book movie. Like I said, incredible soundtrack by Queen, and that's an easy win for me. So I don't know if you guys have know much about Flash Gordon the movie. It's very much referenced in the Ted movies, because you have Sam J. Jones appear in them, and they see him as an idol because they used to, the character used to love Flash Gordon. But it's basically like a space opera superhero movie. So go check it out. It's a lot of fun. It is campy as hell. It is a product of its time, but thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, Flash Gordon was based on like the old 1930s serials. Basically, the actual IP inspired George Lucas to make Star Wars, because originally George Lucas wanted to buy the rights to Flash Gordon and make Flash Gordon rather than Star Wars. And when he couldn't get the rights for Flash Gordon, he decided, I'm going to make my own thing myself. And that's literally how Star Wars was born, out of Flash Gordon. Right. If you look at it, Ming the Merciless is the Emperor kind of thing. If you look at Flash Gordon himself, he is Luke Skywalker. So there's lots of things, and plus there's no denying Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, Brian Blessed is cast for a reason, and also when you look at even The Force Awakens, when J.J. Abrams was looking at The Force Awakens, who does he hire in that film? He hires Max von Sydow, mainly because he was Ming the Merciless. There are subtle references to Flash Gordon, even when Queen Amidala's, when the Trade Federation talked to her for the first time in The Phantom Menace, you have that mirror kind of like water thing that they talk to her. It's like this that's from Flash Gordon, not Flash Gordon movie, but the actual 40 serial that was there. Even the text, the scrolling text for Star Wars, Flash Gordon, like the old serial Flash Gordon, it's from there originally. So there's a lot of influences in Flash Gordon, from Flash Gordon to Star Wars, to be honest. But in terms of this one, obviously canon films, so like Star Wars is popular, sci-fi is popular, they capitalized on it. They did what George Lucas couldn't. They bought the rights. They got Sam Jones. They kind of had a budget. That film was made on a real low budget because that's the way canon films made their films. Like it's amazing. We got the film that we got. The Queen soundtrack is a classic today. But that was on my list as well. A bit further down. But yeah, that was definitely there.
Okay, so we're down to up to 8 films. So we've both got one pick more each. So Sacha, what is going to be your final pick?
Oh wow! Okay, so I don't get to say my top 10 list. There. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll definitely discuss all the others and see if we want to replace anything. But yeah.
Oh no! To be quite honest, the list kind of sounds strong. So I'm not going to budget or be more pro to the other stuff. But the last film I'm going to put out there is Battle Beyond the Stars, starring A-Team's George Peppard.
Battle Beyond the Stars. Okay, so I have no idea about this movie.
Okay, so basically, again, another Star Wars kind of rip-off, because it was, Star Wars made the money, so every studio on Earth wanted their version of Star Wars. So this film stars George Peppard and Robert Vaughn in there, and it's
Mhm.
basically Seven Samurai remade, but as a space film kind of thing. So
Right. Okay.
group of space fighters, they cut well, space fighter or smugglers or whatever. They basically get in a situation where they're on a planet, and then they help the folk there fight the other folk and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's yeah, good sci-fi. One thing about it though, like at the time when I watched it in the 90s, I think, you know, back then you were kind of looking at everything science fiction ever. But out of all the Star Wars rip-offs, this is one of the better ones. Um, and the effects are kind of off. Well, you know what? They're just not as good as Star Wars, because I think
Mm,
back then only ILM could do what they do, and all the Star Wars rip-offs around that time, the effects were not as good. And when you look at them now, it's totally aged. But you know what? It's not that bad. It's still watchable. I caught it on Netflix during lockdown, just that and a few other classics as well. So yeah, definitely check
okay.
that one out. I think it's either on
Yeah.
Amazon or Netflix.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Yeah,
going to check that out. It's yeah, looking at it, you've got Richard Thomas, you've got Robert Vaughn, John
yeah,
Saxton, like you said, George Papard, who's from the A Team. You got Sybil Danning, and yeah, Earl Bowen. So some of these names might not be that familiar to you, but if you Google them, as soon as you see the face, you know them, and they've been in
yeah,
many films. Yeah, really strong cast. Music was by James Horner.
yeah.
Um,
That's right. James
yeah,
Cameron worked on it as well before he was
I was
famous.
yeah, I saw that
Yeah,
he worked on it. So all right, cool. All right, definitely
yeah,
gonna check that out.
he was an effects artist, so he worked on a lot of the visual effects in there, and that's also why like kind of where he got his start, because he met his wife up there, his wife that
Hmm.
went on to produce the Terminator films on there. So yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Right. So I've got the last pick here, and this is a tough one because there's a few films here that I'm considering, and it's I'm looking at the individual films versus potentially the legacies that they brought about and stuff like that. Because we've got films such as Friday the 13th. But I'm not particularly a horror guy. I did enjoy Halloween. And that was probably more as a franchise rather than Friday the 13th. But then you've also got Caddyshack. You've got The Elephant Man. So some real classics there. But one that I'm going to go for is Stir Crazy. So this is
Mhm.
another comedy. It's Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor, amazing comedians and actors. And when they were together, that along with like See No Evil, Hear No Evil, but they're two best friends who are sent to prison for a crime they didn't commit, and comedy ensues. And yeah, it's fantastic. It was one of the top grossing movies of 1980 in the States, particularly. And yeah, it's just a great comedy. And if you haven't watched some of the stuff with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder, you'll know is the original sort of like Willy Wonka. Just fantastic. And I think it's a lot of stuff that's probably missed out these days. But Stir Crazy goes into my top list. Um, Sasha, tell me some of the other movies. So, well, what we'll do is just recap on the movies that we got, and then if you tell me some of the movies that you had either for your list or that maybe nearly made the list.
Uh,
So we've got Empire Strikes Back, Airplane, Raging Bull, The Shining, Long Good Friday, Flash Gordon, Stir Crazy, The Blues Brothers, The Big Brawl, and Battle Beyond the Stars. No particular order except for Star Wars, which is at number one. So Sasha, tell me about some of the other films that maybe almost made your list.
so the other films on my list was Clan of the White Lotus and Return to the 36th Chamber.
Okay, so what are those
Uh,
films about? Who's in those?
so I don't know who's in them, but they're both kung fu films that were
Okay.
readily on Netflix during lockdown, and they're both great films. They're like literally two Shaw Brothers movies that kept,
Mm-hmm.
that were kind of inspiration for films like Kill Bill and stuff. And yeah, they're both really good times, man. So I'd say check them out. I don't really want to get too much into them because
Sure,
yeah,
no.
but yeah, if you like your martial arts and a bit of comedy and you're dubbed kind of, funny martial arts stuff like damn you,
Yeah.
go check them out. Otherwise, I had Flash Gordon, I had Airplane, but one that wasn't mentioned, which I had my number 10, was Private Benjamin, starring Goldie Hawn. It
Yes,
was kind of
and
like her breakout role, man. Well, one of her, well, I wouldn't say one, I'd say Sugarland Express maybe, but this was like definitely one on her filmography and stuff where she was like the leading lady kind of thing. It was a comedy. It used to play on TV in the 80s quite a bit, and good times, man. So check it out if you
yeah,
like your comedy.
it was. Yeah, it was number 6. So in terms of in-year release, it did really well. It was released October, I think October 1980, and it still made like 70 million just between October and December. Really, really popular movie, did really well. Yeah, it's actually a movie, again, not one that I've watched. So this is what I've loved about this, is seeing some of the lists and the movies there. I'm like, I need to check some of this stuff out, because
So you never
obviously
seen
you gotta
Private
remember.
Benjamin?
No, so again, you know, we were
okay.
both, but you know, we were born in 80 and 81, so
Yeah.
we obviously missed the cinema releases of these, and so some movies you just didn't get a chance to.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's, again, sometimes it's ease of access. So because it was one of those movies that was TV on all the time, it'll be like, oh, I'll catch it next time, because obviously
Yeah.
you couldn't, you know, unless you set your video up to record, there's no way of going back and watching this stuff later. So if you've missed like the first 10-15 minutes, I wouldn't watch a movie then, unless it's one I've seen before and enjoyed, because I'd hate to miss the beginning of anything. So I'd always like, okay, next time it's on, I'll look out for it, check out the TV guide, and yeah, keep an eye out for it. But yeah, Private Benjamin, that's actually been on a lot of people's lists from the Creative Control group. So yeah, no, it's definitely a good shout. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the lists from our team, and we'll see if there's anything here we know or don't know. So Amrita, some of her movies was The Shining, which we have, The Elephant Man, which I touched on. So The Elephant Man, if you haven't seen it, it's directed by David Lynch. It stars Anthony Hopkins and John Hurt. Very close to making my list as well. But it's just what film I've watched once but never gone back to. But it's about a Victorian surgeon who rescues a heavily disfigured man who is mistreated while scraping a living as a sideshow freak. Behind his monstrous facade, there is revealed a person of kindness, intelligence, and sophistication. So it's that don't judge a book by its cover kind of story. So Amrita also had Airplane, Raging Bull, Friday the 13th, An American Gigolo. Again, popular movie, and I'm not sure if it was actually released. Oh no, it was released in 1980. Yeah, cinema release. Didn't do that well at the box office at all. American Gigolo. Sasha, have you ever watched it?
Never seen American Gigolo or The Elephant Man.
Right, okay.
Yeah, never seen either of them.
Okay, and another one that Amrita said was Maniac, and I haven't seen or heard of Maniac, and I'm just trying to look it up and see if I can see the movie.
If it's a horror, I definitely ain't seen it, so I'm kind of
yeah.
Oh,
Maniac, here we go, 1980. So yes, it is a horror, starring Joe Spinell and Caroline Munro. I don't know this movie at all. So directed by William Lustig. I have no idea about this movie, but Amrita reckons it's one of her top films of 1980. So if you're a horror fan, maybe you might want to go and check out Maniac from 1980. Also, we have on our list here, let's have a look. So Neil, he had The Empire Strikes Back. He had Superman 2. So Superman 2 doesn't make this list because actually it was released in mainland Europe and Australia in 1980, but it didn't actually get released in the US or the UK until mid-81. So it's going to be most likely appear in our next podcast where we do top 10 films in 81. He's got Blues Brothers, Flash Gordon, The Long Good Friday, Friday the 13th. He's got Fade to Black. Are you familiar with that one, Satch?
Nope.
Nope. I have no idea about Fade to Black. This is, but unfortunately, Neil was in the process of, he's going to be getting married soon. He's got a lot on his plate, so he couldn't turn up. But we've got Fade to Black. We've got an indie film horror. Oh, there you go. It's a horror. So right up Neil Street. That's why it's on his list. Dennis Christopher, Linda Kerridge, Mickey Rourke's in it. So there you go. We've got Caddyshack. Now, Caddyshack, again, a very famous comedy movie, but I've actually never seen it. Have you seen it, Sash?
Yeah, I've seen it, man. It's got some pesky squirrels in there. Sorry,
Yeah,
gophers,
that's what I
squirrels.
know
Yeah.
it for. Yeah, the Gophers, like yeah, but
Yeah.
Bill Murray trying to get control of the Gophers. But I've not actually seen the film. How do you rate it?
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a classic. Yeah.
Okay, cool. He also had Stir Crazy and then a Shogun Assassin. Ring a
Oh,
bell,
what
Sash?
was that? 1980? God
Let's
damn,
have a
that would have
look.
made my list. I didn't know
Oh,
it was
really?
1980.
Let's have a look and see what we've got here. See when it was released. And apparently it was banned, I think, in a few countries. So Shogun Assassin is a combination of two Japanese films.
So yeah, I was going to get. Sorry, I noticed I muted myself there. So basically, I have seen it. I have seen it.
Okay.
But I know it as Lone Wolf and Cub. And basically,
Right.
what Shogun Assassin was, they took the Lone Wolf and Cub series, which is a series of Japanese movies, and they redubbed it and they re-edited it as Shogun Assassin kind of thing. So that they have parts from, yeah. So funnily enough, Lone Wolf and Cub kind of is one of the main things that birthed the Mandalorian, because that is Lone Wolf and Cub. You've got Baby Yoda and Mando going place to place and getting into adventures and stuff. That is Shogun Assassin is really good with the English dub kind of thing. If you've not seen Lone Wolf and Cub, the series of movies of that, I think there's 5 of them and stuff. You can buy them in a box set, and the box set will even have Shogun Assassin as well. But yeah, it's like a different viewing experience than watching like the 5-film saga, you know what I mean?
Right.
So like
Okay.
you can watch it and it's a completely different viewing experience, but yeah, no, Lone Wolf and Cub, great series. Shogun Assassin, fantastic. Obviously it's the same actors and stuff. If I'd known that, I would have
So would you replace any of your films with Shogun Assassin then?
yeah, I'd replace most the martial arts movies I've fucking mentioned. Actually,
Right.
no, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Actually, no, I wouldn't. If I had to pick one, you know what? I would probably.
Would you lose Battle Beyond the Stars or The Big Brawl to put in Shogun Assassin?
No, I'd keep both of those for sure. I would probably lose. Oh man, I deleted my list.
Okay.
We've lost the list. Yeah. No, actually, I would probably lose. This is like Sophie's Choice now. I'd probably lose White Lotus.
White Lotus. So White Lotus didn't make our top 10, but obviously you'd replace it on your top 10. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd replace it. Yeah. Shogun Assassin all the way, man.
All right. Okay. Great shout there, then, Neil. You really got Sacha stressed out. Okay, so then what else have we got here? So Jessen, he said Flash Gordon, Empire Strikes Back, Blues Brothers, Airplane, Fame. Obviously most people know that for the musical or the movie. Not seen the movie. Actually haven't watched the musical either. So, but I appreciate the Smokey and the Bandit too. He's on his list. The Shining and Raging Bull. So I think we're good there. Lee J, he has got Empire Strikes Back, Airplane, The Blues Brothers, The Shining, Stir Crazy, Flash Gordon, Raging Brawl, Friday the 13th, and he's got Mad Max, but I don't think that was released in 1980. Okay, so that was in 79, I think. So Lee's brought up Mad Max, which makes an interesting point because it didn't show up on my Box Office Mojo list, but actually it was released in some territories in 79, but it was actually released in the States on some domestic releases in 1980. So actually, from where we're registering movies, it was actually released in 1980. So there's an argument for it to be in our top 10 list. Sasha, would you have Mad Max in your top 10 list at all?
No, to be honest. Like I like Mad Max, but that first movie, like it's George Miller's first movie. Like literally and I have a lot of appreciation for people's first movies kind of thing. And it's a really good masterstroke of someone with a low budget making a movie and doing it. However, it does come across dated. Obviously that's down to the budget kind of thing. And also it's not one I go back to a lot, to be honest, ever. You know, I've seen it once. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I'm a big fan of the sequels that follow. Well, the second one mainly, and then I know with Mad Max, it's kind of like there's the first one. You watch it for appreciation to get the backstory, but then you watch Road Warrior, and that's a real good movie. And then I think we can skip Thunderdome because Thunderdome was weird and it was okay. It wasn't that bad, but like you know, what I mean, it was the least favorable out of the three. But everyone loves the Road Warrior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I think of Mad Max, I think of that film, and then come on, the masterpiece that was Fury Road. The only way that movie could have been better is if Mel Gibson was Mad Max, to be honest. But still, that aside, Tom Hardy does a great job in that, even though he's barely in it. But I love that movie.
That might go. That might be my next unpopular opinion.
Yeah, you're wrong. But anyway.
Okay, so okay, good shout from Lee there from Mad Max. It definitely was released in 1980 in the States, made just over $8 billion. So yeah, it wasn't a big hit then. Lee Dixon, his list, we got The Shining, Flash Gordon, Superman 2. We just had that debate. Empire Strikes Back, Raging Bull, Caddyshack, which we've mentioned but didn't make the list yet. Stir Crazy, Private Benjamin, and The Fog. And the Blues Brothers. So The Fog, John Carpenter, right? So
yeah,
I've seen it. It was good, but it doesn't make my list. But I can appreciate it. But another appearance by Jamie Lee Curtis in a horror. Okay, so any other movies, Sash, that you think we haven't covered in our 1980s release?
Nope.
Cool, I think that's it. So we stuck with our list. We haven't made any changes. It was close with Shogun Assassin, but to reiterate our list, we have, in no particular order, Empire Strikes Back, Airplane, Raging Bull, The Shining, The Long Good Friday, Flash Gordon, Stir Crazy, The Blues Brothers, The Big Brawl, and Battle Beyond the Stars.
You know what?
Okay.
You know what? I want to change that. I want to take out the Big
The last
Brawl.
minute.
I want to take out the Big Brawl, and I want to put in Shogun Assassin.
Wow, right. Okay. Last minute edit.
I can't. Neil, this is for you, buddy, because you know and I know that's a mistake. Okay. I love Jackie Chan, but Lone Wolf and Cub, like, come on, man. Like, come on.
All right. I love that. Last minute edit.
Every martial arts fan would execute me if I did not put Lone Wolf and Cub.
All right, cool. Look, sound off in the comments if you guys are martial arts fans, Jackie Chan fans, whatever it is. Has Sacha made the right call? Has he made the right decision?
Yeah, have I? I'm wrestling with it because I just feel like if I had to pick one, it's Sophie's choice now, kind of thing. Because I'm a huge Jackie Chan fan, but at the same time, I cannot deny like the force that is Lone Wolf and Cub. You know, so like I don't know, man. Yeah. Sound off in the comments. Did I make the right choice? Because I don't even know whether I made the right choice. So yeah,
I don't know because I haven't seen either, so I can't help you, bro. Okay, but yeah, it's on Neil's list, and yeah, we'll leave it there. So Battle Beyond the Stars, Shogun Assassin, The Blues Brothers, Stir Crazy, Flash Gordon, The Long Good Friday, The Shining, Raging Bull, Airplane, and The Empire Strikes Back. That rounds up our top 10 films of 1980. Thanks very much for listening. We really appreciate your support. Thank you if you've been watching our video on either YouTube, make sure you follow, like, and subscribe. If you've been maybe watching our video on Spotify, appreciate it. Drop us a follow. And if you're just listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to your podcast, make sure you just hit that follow. We really appreciate your support. Sacha, anything else you want to mention before we go?
So, if you're into retro gamings, please check out AdStream Arcade. It's a retro gaming streaming service that offers over 1,500 games online to play, all retro from PlayStation 1 and below. And the library is expanding every week, every Tuesday, with 2 new games and 1 new challenge a week. Challenges are part of AdStream's little thing. They take old games, they make brand new content and challenges like high school challenges and that kind of thing for people to play. There's online tournaments, so you can go and compete against other players around the world, and they have online leaderboards on all the games and all the tournaments and all the stuff, so you can compete with other players. It just released on Xbox, So you can play it on Xbox, you can play it on your PC, you can play it on your mobile phone, and you can play it on the web. If you have an Apple, I recommend using the web version, as there's no current app on anything Apple just yet, but could be something that's in the pipeline in the future. Definitely check us out, and yeah, enjoy playing those retro games like Double Dragon,
Yeah.
and in vein of Shogun Assassin, Samurai Showdown, and lots of SNK games, because they do have a big selection of SNK games from Japan that didn't necessarily make it to these. So if you're a hardcore retro gamer and you know what I'm talking about, they got some good stuff. Unfortunately for you Xbox users, we don't have Namco, but who knows what the future may hold. But if you have a PC, you can play Namco all you want, Pac-Man and all those classics. So yeah.
Great out, Chassis. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic app. Like I say, it's retro gaming on the go. I've got the app on my mobile from the Play Store. Like you say, you can use it. You can check out. You can access it from a browser, anstream.com. Yeah, go for it. And the great thing about the challenges is once you challenge it, you can actually challenge a friend, and you can ping them a message, and they'll get that email notification say, you know, I've got a food from Sacha. Sacha has challenged you, and yeah, no, good fun. So, right, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for your time today, Sacha. I really appreciate it. And until next time, listeners and viewers, peace out.